Leo played it perfect tone, which was he's shivering, he can barely form the words. He knows he's going to die. We've already seen that he's made a sacrifice for her. Of course, very controversial, that he could have gotten on the raft with her, but he saw that it would have compromised her safety, and he kind of steps back. He did what the gentleman on the ship did. I was happy when I wrote that scene.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. So that's a funny thing, because in the script, it actually read, I think, I'll come back. And there was something about the way Arnold said it with his then quite thick Austrian accent that didn't sound quite right. And so I said, well, just switch it to I'll be back, And he said, really? I said, yeah. And we just kind of, made it up in the moment. And of course, it became quite iconic. But here's the interesting thing about that line. You're watching the movie for the first time. You have no idea what's going to happen next. And yet it still got a laugh. Somehow people had gotten already this guy was this bulldozer. You just get this innate sense of this guy as just this juggernaut. And when he says, I'll be back, it's going to be bad. So people laughed before they even knew. They didn't even know what a Terminator movie was at that point. Well, I think they were starting to figure it out.
Come with me if you want to live.
Terminator 2, that's the pivotal moment where Sarah has this stunning realization that the Terminator that's before her, her worst nightmare, has turned into her savior and the savior of her son. And it was just a fun moment to see how Linda would play that. We knew it was a tough moment for her because her whole reality literally flips upside down. She played it beautifully. It was just a nice piece of acting.
I'm the king of the world!
It's a pure moment of exaltation for him. He's just alive. He's in the moment. He doesn't have a penny in his pocket. He won the damn ticket in a poker game. He's just living carefree, fancy-free. He's met Fabrizio, and they're just having fun. It was an expression of life. His life spirit, which seems so unquenchable and so full of potential. Every time I'm arcing by, I'm getting ready to do a run, I'm talking to Leo on the radio, okay, howl like a wolf, I got him howling like a wolf. We tried it, 10 times. And he looked great, and his acting spirit was there, but we just couldn't quite find the right word. And it just popped into my head. I said, just say I'm the king of the world. I hear back on the walkie, what? I said, you got to sell it. You got to sell it. Just say I'm the king of the world. And he did. He put his arms out, and you feel that spirit, and it became the focal point of the whole scene. The whole ship's energy, the pounding of the engines, the dolphins jumping, everything, all, the beauty and the power and the majesty of it all culminated to his spirit at the bow. Now, I come along at the Academy Awards and make the classic mistake of assuming that just because we had won Best Picture, or that I got Best Director, that everybody in the room loved the movie and would celebrate a reference to the movie. But they weren't. Not everybody voted for it, right? And the knives are always, they're kind of always half drawn. Even when they're there to celebrate you, the knife is half out of the hilt. out of the sheath, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I put my foot in that one.
Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
A lot of people have kind of mocked and spoofed that line, but I think a lot of people really like it. She's bold. She's taking the power. She's been robbed of power by her fiancé, by her mother, by her social straitjacket. He's this devil-may-care, free spirit, artistic spirit, all the things that she wants to be. And she just flips the script and tells him to do his thing. I think people celebrate her empowerment as a character in that moment. It's also the promise of romance, the promise of sex. It's also this great liberation. And it's my 40-something-year-old hand as Leo's 20-year-old hand. And I drew the picture, and then Leo just made some hen-scratching, while he was fiercely concentrating on her and pretending to draw. The only problem is I draw left-handed, and he was madly drawing away right-handed. I should have made him draw left-handed. When you sketch, there's an arc that's formed by your wrist, so all my lines are arcing in this direction. Now I've got to do the drawing backwards. So if you look in the movie, I'm doing the outlining, but I'm not doing any of the shading. I'm doing the smudging because I couldn't do it, because the arcs were all the wrong direction.
I don't know about you, but I intend to write a strongly worded letter to the White Star Line about all this.
I just think people appreciate Jack's presence of mind to be taking the stress out of the situation for her by making a joke. And Leo played it perfect tone, which was he's shivering, he can barely form the words. He knows he's going to die. We've already seen that he's made a sacrifice for her. Of course, very controversial, that he could have gotten on the raft with her, but he saw that it would have compromised her safety, and he kind of steps back. He did what the gentlemen on the ship did when they stepped back from the lifeboats to save the women and children first, because that was honor and duty. I was happy when I wrote that scene.
Get away from her, you bitch!
That's a great, iconic moment. The moment we knew we had them was then they just burst into wild applause on that line. They loved it, so we knew the movie had landed. And then you realize this movie is about two females of different species protecting their young, and it's on. It was just the right line at the right time in that movie, and then the audience response to it reminded me why you do this.
I was a Marine. A warrior of the Jarhead clan.
My brother Dave was a Marine. He died recently. You go your whole life as a Marine. Jake, doesn't matter where he goes in the universe. If he was a U.S. Marine, at some point, he's a Marine. Only a Marine can call himself a Jarhead, unless they're a Marine, in which case it's okay. So that was just a little inside kind of Marine Corps reference. I put a few of them in, kind of for my brother Dave, who's a guy that I really loved and admired.
I see you.
I see you.
I see you is a very important line. It resonates for people a lot. It just popped into my head while I was writing the treatment in 95. And it's like, what would a Na'vi greeting be? You're walking towards somebody, and I see you. Basically kind of the simplicity of it, right? Then it started to take on various layers of meaning as I thought, well, what do people really want? They want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be recognized. They want to be respected. They want to be loved. Seeing it took on a deeper meaning. Jake's kind of struggling with the idea. But of course, the whole movie is about that. The movie starts with him opening his eyes, and it ends with him opening his eyes. He has woken up to a greater experience of the world, to a deeper understanding. He's the only human that's ever truly understood the Na'vi from their perspective. And he inhabits, as his avatar, he inhabits their world. And of course, he's learning from this woman that he's falling in love with. I think you're never more open than when you're falling in love with somebody that can teach you something. And so I see you took on many meanings. I understand you, I acknowledge you, I respect you, I love you. There's the top layer of the movie, which is plot and character, and then there's the second layer of the movie, which is thematic, right, which is about themes of indigenous culture and human civilization kind of at war with itself, pulling us away from our connection to nature and all those things. But there's another layer, there's a tertiary layer, which is mystical. If we don't service that layer as well, then we're not really doing a worthy sequel or worthy sequels to the first film. It continues to be important to ask the audience to see kind of with better eyes some of the things that are our problems in our world. I mean, Avatar doesn't pretend to have some great solution. It's just saying, our human journey is very troubled right now.
This is our home. This is our family. This is our fortress.
I question it as I go along, spending 5 years on essentially one IP, it's 2.5 movies that we've been working on over the last 5 years. I question it, and then I start seeing the results, and then it's a no-brainer at that point. Then it just all comes to life, and that world comes to life, and you see the characters come to life. It's kind of magical. Sometimes I have to pinch myself when I see the end result of the process. So you just have to have faith in the process as you go along. I knew I wanted to tell a family story. I wanted to, as an artist, express some of the things, the ideas, the feelings that I had as a parent and that I had observed in my kids. And I'd done sort of parent-child stories in the past, even all the way back to Aliens and Terminator 2. But I hadn't lived it. There was a lot of sort of great dramatic grist for the mill there around the dysfunction of families, but how there's a strength at the core of families that helps get people through times. We're all in this highly angst-ridden, highly anxious time right now. I wanted to, within a fantasy world, show, especially a young audience, it's okay. Even 200 years from now on a distant planet, kids are still going to feel anxious or depressed or unseen. It's okay. I'm just not only channeling my experience as a parent, but my experience as a teenager myself. And I just thought that foundation of universal human experience put into the most far-flung, fantasy environment that you can imagine grounds it emotionally.